This is Earnings Preview, a look at companies reporting during the week, along with companies which may have positive or negative earnings surprises. This earnings preview is for the week of February 9th through the 13th. Charles Roplat, our senior market analyst at Zacks.com, joins me with it once again. And we've got nearly 400 companies now scheduled to report for this current week. Traders keeping an eye on a few different things. They've got the stimulus bill in Washington that they're watching argument develop on to see if that thing gets passed. And, of course, you've still got earnings season. Any other dynamics here for the week?
Well, I think those are really the big things. And also on Monday morning, Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner is actually going to unveil the new plan to bail out the banks. And I kind of making a small note about it in the earnings preview article today, the written commentary, that they're coming up with a new entity to actually to absorb all the bad debts that these banks have on their balance sheets. And it's funny because TARP actually stands for Troubled Asset Relief Program. So what it was meant to do, it hasn't done. So now we're going to come out with, I'd say Plan B, but we're probably on Plan G or H, or I've lost track. But
yeah.
So that's going to have an impact early on. Obviously, the markets have moved up a little bit in anticipation that something would come out there. But traders will pay attention to what he said. Maybe we might get sell and use type scenario on it. Hard to say. The volatility will continue. But then we'll have to see what's going on with the stimulus package. There's too much pork in it. Although I do think there needs to be a lot of spending in there. I do think there's a lot of programs in that package right now that we're hearing that need to be pulled out of it. And so we'll see what happens. Government always takes longer than people expect. Even after the Senate comes to a version that they want to pass, it still has to go to a joint committee, and then you have to take that back to the House, and also whatever compromise version's created goes back to the Senate. And we'll see what happens. I heard earlier today they have about 57 senators on board. Harry really wants 60 senators, so there's still some arms that need to be twisted, and hopefully we'll have improvements to the bill that get those arms twisted as opposed to some pork barrel projects that are thrown in there to appease one or two senators.
As far as earnings are concerned, we're going to see a shift away from the blue chips and more with the smaller caps in focus for this week, huh?
Absolutely, and that's just typical what we see during the earnings season. Always see the large caps, particularly your Dow components, report early. Obviously, exceptions are companies like Hewlett-Packard or Walmart, which always report late in earnings season. But we are seeing that shift. Probably second half of February, we'll start seeing more retailers report. Abercrombie is actually going to report this week. I do highlight some of the notable companies reporting this week, though. We do have Coca-Cola, Dow component. We do have Applied Materials, though that is not a Dow component. It could impact how people trade the NASDAQ, the QQQ ETF, and also just technology shares in general. Semiconductor industry, however, is having a lot of problems, so I don't expect very good news out of Applied Material. And to a certain extent, that's already known. I don't think anyone's expecting an extremely bullish report out of Applied Materials. So it could come down to how do they perform relative towards lower expectations.
Economic calendar kind of light this week.
It is. We'll have retail sales coming out. No surprise there. We're looking for a decline. We'll have consumer confidence released, preliminary University of Michigan report coming out. Again, you're seeing job losses left and right. That's not going to be a pretty number either. But then again, most people kind of expect it to be somewhat negative news, so it shouldn't be much of a surprise. But with the volatility we're seeing on a daily basis, you can flip a coin as to whether or not the market's going to be up or down.
Yeah, and as far as earnings are concerned, the market's going to kind of keep them in focus right to the end of earnings season this time?
Oh, absolutely. I think people are paying attention, and certainly it's going to drive the day-to-day news. Certainly when we start looking at some of the more large-cap retailers coming out, that will have an impact. Your Walmarts, your Targets, your Macy's, those type of companies. But definitely people are going to still continue to pay attention. But I think as we move later into February, the stimulus package is going to have a lot of effect. Really, what kind of package do we have passed? What do people think is going to happen with it? And really, how long will it take? And my guess is we'll actually have a market pullback sometime this spring, simply because we do have a stimulus package passed, and then everybody realizes, yeah, we've got this $800-900 billion, whatever size the package ends up being, passed. but all of a sudden, hey, it's taken longer than we expect for this to actually take a hold and really have an impact. So I do expect some type of pullback sometime in the spring. However, we're looking at a lot of uncertainty, and the timing of all of this remains uncertain.
All right. Well, Charles outlines some companies that report to the upside, or that could surprise to the upside, I should say, and a couple of companies that could surprise to the downside in this most current week. You'll want to go to Zacks.com and click on the headline right next to his picture that says earnings preview for the week of whatever, February 9th through the 13th in this case, and see what those companies are, because they may surprise you. You never know. With Charles Rotblatt, I'm Terry Ruffalo.